Have you ever been right in the middle of saying something that truly mattered and suddenly someone cuts you off? Maybe it's at work, when you're finally explaining your idea in a meeting. Maybe it's with friends, when you're opening up about something personal. Or worse, it's with the person you love. You're vulnerable, honest, and then they interrupt. And what do we usually do? We go quiet. We smile awkwardly. We whisper, "Sorry, go ahead." It seems harmless, but it's not, because every single time you do that, you're teaching the world something dangerous. You're teaching it how much your voice deserves to be heard. This isn't just about interruptions. It's about power, about presence, about respect. When people interrupt you, it's not only a social mistake, it's a test. A test of whether you'll shrink or stand, of whether you'll surrender your ground or calmly reclaim it. And here's the good news. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to argue. You don't even need to get angry. There are just 3 words, simple, ancient, and powerful, that can stop interruptions instantly. 3 words once practiced by the greatest Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. 3 words that can silence a room, command attention, and make people lean in when you speak. Stay with me till the end of this video, because once you learn them, you'll never struggle to be heard again. And if you believe in mastering yourself, in becoming unshakable in a noisy world, get right now to subscribe to Daily Stoic Light, because here we grow stronger together, not by shouting louder, but by speaking with calm authority. 1. Words and power. The ancients knew something we've almost forgotten. Words are power. Long before technology, before governments or titles, civilization itself was built on speech. A single promise could start a war. A single command spoken at the right moment could save thousands of lives. That's how much words mattered. The Romans believed this deeply. They saw language as the foundation of order, the bridge between chaos and meaning. And Seneca once wrote to his friend Lucilius, "Brevity and calm in speech carry more force than the loudest cries of the crowd." Not noise, not anger, but calm authority. And you know what's fascinating? 2,000 years later, nothing has changed. Power no longer rests in swords or shields. It rests in your words and the way you carry them. Think about it. In a meeting, if you can't hold attention, you'll be ignored. In a negotiation, if you can't defend your thoughts, you'll be dismissed. Even in relationships, if you can't steady your voice, you'll be overlooked. Most people don't lose power because they're wrong. They lose it because they give it away. Quietly, politely, almost without noticing. They smile when interrupted. They whisper sorry. They yield the floor. And in that moment, something subtle but dangerous happens. They tell the world, "My voice matters less than yours." Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning, "Do not be distracted by what is unnecessary. Hold to what is essential." If you don't protect what's essential, in your words, your tone, your presence, others will take it from you. And once you've surrendered your voice, regaining it becomes harder each time. So how do you reclaim it? How do you stop interruptions without shouting, without anger, without ego? It begins with a single word. A word so simple, most people overlook its power. But when you use it correctly, everything changes. Let's begin with that first word, listen. 2. The first word, listen. The first word is simple, but don't let its simplicity fool you. That word is listen. Psychologists call it an orienting signal, a word that instantly reprograms the human brain. When we hear it, something ancient in us awakens. We stop, we focus, we prepare to receive what matters. Picture this. You're in a meeting. Voices are clashing. Everyone's trying to prove they're the smartest person in the room. You don't shout. You don't slam the table. You simply say, "Listen, here's what needs to be finished first." The noise fades. The chaos settles. People turn toward you, not because you force them to, but because that one word carries quiet authority. It doesn't beg for attention. It commands it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, the teacher of calm reason, used to pause his lectures when his students grew restless. He didn't scold them. He didn't raise his voice. He would simply lift his eyes, wait, and say, "Listen." And silence returned. Order followed, not because he demanded control, but because he embodied it. Centuries later, Martin Luther King Jr. used the same principle. In the middle of his "I have a dream" speech, surrounded by cheers, applause, and chanting, he would lower his tone and begin a phrase with, "Now listen." And suddenly, thousands of people would lean in. The power of his words multiplied, not from volume but from presence. That's what listen does. It cuts through noise without aggression. It resets the room. It tells others, my words carry value. When you say listen, you're not asking for permission. You're declaring presence. And presence is what commands respect. But there's one more thing. Getting people to listen is only the first step. Their attention fades quickly unless you give it direction. You must show them why what you're saying matters. That's where the second word comes in. A word that instantly changes the hierarchy of any conversation. Let's talk about that next. The word is important. 3. The second word, important. The second word is important. It sounds ordinary, but when you use it correctly, it can transform the entire balance of a conversation. Here's why. Interruptions happen because people believe what they're about to say matters more than you. They assume your words can wait. But the moment you say, the important point is this, everything changes. You've just flipped the hierarchy. You've reminded the room, calmly but firmly, that your voice has weight. And nobody wants to be the fool who ignores what's important. Neuroscientists have studied this. When the human brain hears the word important, it automatically shifts into focus. It sharpens attention. It primes the mind for significance. It tells the listener, this matters. Picture this. You're presenting an idea. Halfway through, someone cuts in, maybe trying to outshine you. You don't tense up. You don't argue. You simply say, the important part I was about to share changes everything. And just like that, you've reclaimed the moment, not with anger, but with presence. The Stoics used this same principle thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by advisors on the battlefield, would raise his hand and say, the important matter is the discipline of the soldiers, and the noise around him would fade. Because that single phrase pulled everyone back to what truly mattered. You can do the same in meetings, in relationships, even in casual conversations. When you say what's important here is that we understand the reason first, you don't just ask for attention, you define where attention belongs. It's a subtle shift, but it's powerful. Instead of competing to be heard, you become the one who guides what's heard. However, there's a small catch. Even the word important can lose its force if it floats in abstraction. People might nod, but their minds will drift away again, unless you anchor it to something stronger. And that anchor is time. Because attention only lives in one place, the present moment. That's why the third word is the one that ties everything together, the word that forces every wandering mind back to you. That word is now. 4. The third word, now. The third word is short, sharp, and unstoppable. That word is now. If listen commands attention, and important defines what matters, then now brings it all to life. Because later can be delayed, tomorrow can be ignored. But now demands presence. Seneca once wrote, life is divided into 3 parts, what was, what will be, and what is. We are not masters of the first 2, but only the third. The Stoics believe the present moment is our only true possession. And that's why the word now holds such power. It doesn't allow distractions. It doesn't allow escape. It forces the world to meet you in this exact instant. Picture this. You're interrupted mid-thought. Instead of fading away, you take a breath and say, now let me finish this. The person stops. Why? Because now isn't optional. It anchors the conversation back to you. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, understood this perfectly. When his students debated endlessly about theories, he would stop them and say, now is the time to practice philosophy, not tomorrow. He refused to let wisdom drift into the comfort of later. He pulled people back into the urgency of now. Modern leaders use the same force. A general doesn't say soon, he says now. A coach doesn't shout later, he says now. Because urgency commands respect. The same applies in everyday life. When you say now, focus on this part, or now, hear the rest of my point, you're not arguing, you're redirecting momentum. You've taken the energy of interruption and turned it into your own rhythm. That's power. That's Stoic presence. And here's what's beautiful. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to dominate. You only need to root yourself in the present moment. Because when you speak from now, you're no longer chasing attention. you're creating it. So let's recap. With listen, you capture attention. With important, you define meaning. With now, you anchor presence. But there's one habit that destroys all of this. A single word that erases your authority the moment it leaves your mouth. And almost everyone uses it without thinking. That word is sorry. 5. The trap of sorry. Now that you've learned the words that build authority, let's talk about the one word that destroys it. It's quiet, it's polite, it even sounds kind, but it's the silent killer of your confidence. That word is sorry. Think about how often you say it. You're interrupted, and without even realizing it, you whisper, "Sorry, go ahead." It feels harmless, it feels mature. But beneath the surface, it's devastating. Because every time you say sorry in that moment, you're not just apologizing, you're asking for permission to exist in the conversation. You're teaching others that their words deserve space, while yours can be brushed aside. Epictetus once warned, "No one can diminish you without your consent." And sorry is how most people give that consent away, softly, repeatedly, until their voice disappears completely. Picture this. You're in a meeting, you share an idea, and someone cuts you off mid-sentence. You smile, lean back, and say, "Sorry, continue." In that instant, your influence vanishes. You've told the room, "What I was saying wasn't important." Or at home, you open up to your partner, you share something personal, vulnerable, and they interrupt. You respond, "Sorry, please finish." You just told them, "My feelings matter less." Do this often enough and people start to believe it. They won't even realize they're stepping over your voice because you trained them to. And here's the Stoic truth. Authority isn't something you demand, it's something you embody. Seneca said, "Calm brevity persuades more deeply than anger." But calm doesn't mean surrender. Stillness doesn't mean silence. The real danger of sorry isn't weakness in a single moment. It's the slow erosion of your presence over time. It's how powerful people become invisible. Not because others took their voice, but because they gave it away, piece by piece. So if sorry is the trap, what's the way out? There is a simple phrase, short, clear, powerful, that replaces apology with authority. A phrase that reclaims your voice without conflict. Those 3 words are, listen, there's more. 6. The alternative, listen, there's more. So if sorry is the trap, what's the way out? It comes down to one simple phrase. Short, calm, but incredibly powerful. 3 words that restore your voice without aggression. Listen, there's more. Picture this. You're in a meeting, sharing an idea you've worked hard on. Someone interrupts, cuts across your sentence. Most people would shrink, smile politely, and retreat. But you take a quiet, meet their eyes and say, "Listen, there's more." Suddenly, the room changes. Your colleague pauses. Their momentum stops. Why? Because those words signal something deeper. You didn't finish. Your thought has weight. This isn't about ego. It's about presence. It's about reminding others and yourself that your voice carries substance. Try it in your personal life. You open your heart to a friend. They interrupt with their own story. It happens all the time. Instead of fading into the background, you smile gently and say, "Listen, there's more." You're not fighting. You're guiding the conversation back to its center, back to respect. Even in marriage, this small shift can transform years of habit. Couples often interrupt out of comfort, not malice. But if one always yields with sorry, that comfort becomes a pattern of silence. And silence over time becomes distance. But when you calmly answer, "Listen, there's more," you're not arguing, you're inviting presence. You're saying, "I'm still here. My thoughts still matter." Epictetus called this the discipline of speech. He taught that silence is not weakness, it's mastery. But mastery doesn't mean submission. It means directing silence where it belongs. When you say, "Listen, there's more," you direct silence back to yourself. You reclaim space with calm authority. And that's what makes it so powerful. Because sorry makes your words sound like noise. But "listen, there's more" makes them sound like truth. This isn't manipulation. It's clarity. It's the posture of someone who respects their own voice. And the Stoics would remind us, your words don't just communicate thoughts, they reveal the kind of person you are. Which brings us to the final part, the deepest lesson of all. What your speech says about your soul. 7. The Stoic lesson. At the heart of Stoicism lies a timeless truth. Your words are not separate from who you are. They are mirrors of your inner state. They reveal how you think, how you value yourself, and how you move through the world. Epictetus used to remind his students, discipline of speech reflects discipline of thought. Seneca wrote, brevity holds more power than volume. And Marcus Aurelius warned, waste no words on what is unnecessary. They all understood one thing. Speech is not about sound. It's about strength. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that commands respect without demand. When you say listen, you claim attention. When you say important, you define what matters. When you say now, you anchor yourself in presence. And when you replace sorry with listen, there's more, you stop apologizing for existing. You begin to speak as someone who knows their worth. Because this isn't about learning tricks to control a conversation, it's about transforming the way you see yourself. Your tone, your pauses, your choice of words, they all broadcast one simple truth. I am here, and what I say carries weight. You see, people can sense authenticity. They can feel when your words come from ego and when they come from quiet conviction. The Stoic way is not to shout over the noise, it's to make silence work for you, to speak less but mean more, to project calm in a world addicted to chaos. And when you do that, you don't have to beg for respect, you become respect. It follows you. It fills the room before you even open your mouth. So remember these words, practice them until they become a part of you. Listen. Important. Now. And when the world interrupts, don't retreat. Simply smile and say, listen, there's more. Because in that moment, you're not just speaking, you're embodying the philosophy of strength, clarity, and calm authority. And if this message spoke to you today, join me and millions walking this same path by subscribing to Daily Stoic Light. Together, we grow stronger. Together, we learn to live unshakable. And together, we reclaim the quiet power of speaking like a true Stoic.